From the ingredients that we have laid out here, I'm guessing you could already tell that today we're making Dhalpuri, or at least we attempting to make Dhalpuri. Now, truth be told, I am not proficient or even good at making roti. I just always struggle with getting decent results. I never made Dhalpuri where the outcome was something that I was satisfied with. At best, I achieved mediocre results. So in preparation for this video, I took a look at a couple recipe tutorials from some of my favorite Caribbean food media personalities. I took a look at a couple videos from Cooking with Rhea, Trini Cooking with Natasha, Reshmi aka Taste of Trini, and Chris aka Caribbean Pot. Now, making Dhalpuri requires a lot of technique, so this recipe has always been real intimidating for me, but today we're going brave, so let me get started. Starting off the roti, we're going in with 4 cups of all-purpose flour. We're using a ratio of 1 teaspoon of baking powder to 1 cup of flour, so I add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. We add in 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and now we want to combine until the dry ingredients are fully incorporated. Now for the liquid, I add in 1.5 cups of very warm water. You want the water to be somewhere between lukewarm and hot, but not too hot where you can't handle the dough. You want to add the water gradually until all the flour is hydrated. Then you want to bring the dough together until it's a smooth ball. Now this doesn't require a lot of kneading because it's not bread we're making, so I'd say knead it for about 3 to 5 minutes. And once the dough comes together into a smooth ball, you want to drizzle it with a bit of vegetable oil to ensure the dough remains moist and it doesn't dry out. Then you want to cover it with a damp kitchen towel and allow it to rest for at least 30 minutes. And while the dough is resting, let's move on to making the dal filling. I have 1.5 cups of yellow split peas, and you want to make sure to rinse your split peas to remove any sediment and foreign entities. So you want to always be on the lookout for these kind of foreign objects in your peas, especially the loose ones that you might buy in the market or the grocery. You want to add the washed peas to 1.5 liters of water. You want to add 1 teaspoon of turmeric, or saffron as we call it locally, and this isn't just for color, this is also for flavor. And this is the only seasoning we add in at this point. Now, we don't want to overcook the split peas. If we overcook it, we're going to end up with regular dal, and that is not the texture we're going for. We need the dal to be grainy, and to achieve that, we need to cook it al dente. And this means that the dal is going to have a bit of a bite when it's finished cooking. So you want to cook this dal on medium to high heat for 25 minutes. 25 minutes later, let's check on the texture of the dal. As you can see here, when I press it down, it not turn into mush. It still has a bit of resistance to it. So it's not mush and it's not soft. And this is the perfect texture. This is what we're going for. Next, you want to drain the dal and allow it to cool before moving on to the next step. And once the dal is cool, you want to add it to your food processor. And at this point, I add in a couple leaves of shadow benny, a couple cloves of garlic. I add in 1 Scotch bonnet pepper without the seeds. Now, the important part to note when you're grinding dal in the food processor is that we're not just going to put it in and leave it. You want to pulse it continuously and monitor the consistency while we pulsing. So after every couple pulses, you want to uncover it and check the consistency. You want to keep on checking the mixture in between pulses to make sure that we don't end up with split peas hummus. That is not the texture we're going for here. The final destination is a grainy dal dust. Once the dal is close to reaching its desired texture, we want to add in 1 tablespoon of roasted jeera aka cumin and 2 teaspoons of salt. And we want to continue to pulse until it reaches that almost powdery texture. So our dal filling looking good here. We have a nice texture going on here, but we also have a little bit of moisture in the dal, and we want to remove some of that moisture. So let's go to the next step. To remove the moisture from the dal, we want to put it in a pot or a pan on medium-high heat and cook the dal for about 5 minutes. We want to keep the dal moving around in the pot intermittently so we get an even evaporation of moisture throughout the mixture without burning it. And this step will ensure the perfect texture and consistency for the dal filling for the roti. After 5 minutes, our filling is perfect. Now we want to allow it to cool before we move on to the next part of the process. Now that the dal filling is cool, we're ready for one of the most intimidating parts of the process for me, and that is stuffing the dough with the filling. So I'm dividing the dough into 8 equal portions. Split it into 2, then split each half in 2, and then continue that until we have 8 even-ish portions. Now for the tricky part. From the videos I watch, you're supposed to press the dough into about a 3-inch disc in your palm, making sure not to make the center of the disc too thin, and then begin to fill it with the dal filling. Place the filling into the middle of the disc and then push it down and bring the ends up towards the top to make a little dough ball. Then you want to bring the ends together and begin to pinch and twist to seal the dough ball. And you want to be gentle when you're doing this. As you can see here on the first one, already had some burstage happening. And this is the part that really takes a lot of practice and skill to get right. Even after watching the technique and trying to follow step by step, I still find it to be quite challenging. So place the filling into the disc, pushing it down into the middle of the disc, and then bring the ends together at the top. You want to pinch and twist while you're pinching to seal. And once all of the dough balls are filled, it's time for the other intimidating part of the process, and that is rolling out the dough. And this is the part I always run into problems where the dal is always bursting the dough. You want to flour your work surface and rolling pin, and then place the roti on the floured surface and gently press the dal from the middle of the dough towards the edges. The key word here is gently. Now once the dal has been pressed towards the edge, you want to use the rolling pin to roll out the roti as thin as possible. And unfortunately, as I started to roll it out, I could already see where the filling was ripping the outer layer of the roti. You want to make sure that your tawa is preheated on medium-low heat. And you don't want the tawa too hot because it will cause the roti to cook too fast and get crispy. You want to oil the tawa with butter or ghee or vegetable oil. And then place the roti on it. And as you can see here, the filling burst the roti, so I already know I'm not going to get great results here. And to allow it to cook on one side for 20 to 30 seconds. Then flip and brush with the oil or ghee. Allow to cook for another 20 to 30 seconds, then flip again. You could brush it again with oil, but that's totally optional. Once it's finished cooking, you want to fold it, and then you want to wrap it in a kitchen towel and place it in a bowl so it could stay soft and warm. So now we're just going to repeat the process of rolling out the roti and cooking it on the tawa. So the dhalpuri is finished cooking, and you could already tell that I did not achieve great results. While the dough is soft and pliable and the filling is tasty with a nice grainy consistency, something went wrong with my technique when I was filling the dough and then rolling it out to place on the tawa. The results not terrible, but to be honest, it's not close to the outcome I was hoping for. And making dhalpuri at home could be an intimidating thing, but I believe, like anything else, it takes practice to master. And even though this video wasn't a resounding success, I wanted to share the process with you. There are still a lot of recipes and techniques that I'm learning, and the key to mastering any recipe is trial and error. So hopefully this video will inspire and encourage people who may be hesitant to try it at home to do so. If you have any tips on how I could improve my technique or any pointers on where I went wrong in the process, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd really appreciate that. And again, for the roti noobs like myself, I hope this video doesn't discourage you from trying it. You know, fortune favors the brave, and the fortune here is being able to make your own dhalpuri at home. So I have a whole set of dal filling remain here. Trust and believe I'm going to be trying to make roti again over the next couple days. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and give it a share. And remember to subscribe to our channel for more great content. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.